for the Commission of Inquiry. I am joined by my colleagues, the Commission Secretary, Dr. Nolita Vokuza, also joined by the Chief Investigator, Dr. Peter Goss, Evidence Leader, Advocate Matthew Chaskelson, SC, and then the attorneys from Diale Mukhashwa attorneys, Madimpe Mukhashwa, Donald Diale, and Marie Volsnach. I hope I've got the pronunciation correct. Once again, good afternoon to members of the media, and let me start by saying that the Commission has called this media briefing to update all South Africans on the progress made by the Commission and to take the public into confidence regarding preparations for the much anticipated public hearings. Since President Cyril Ramaphosa formally proclaimed the Judicial Commission of Inquiry by way of Government Gazette on the 23rd of July 2025, and since our first media briefing on 28 July 2025, we've made significant progress in establishing the Commission whilst simultaneously conducting investigations into the allegations made by Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi, and we've also been consulting witnesses. As we are seated here, the Commission's senior team, except for those who are present with us, are seized with preparations for the commencement of the Commission's hearings next Wednesday, the 17th of September. I'll return to those preparations shortly. On the progress we've made with regard to setting up the Commission, the proclamations establishing the Commission and the regulations governing its operation were published in the Government Gazette on the 22nd of August 2025. The proclamation and regulations govern the proceedings of the Commission, and the documents are available online at the Government Printing Works, that's gpw.online.co.za/government-gazettes, and can be found under the date, the 22nd of August, and it was sponsored by the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development. I should have said that we are also joined in one row back from the Commission's team by DDG TT from the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development. That's Tabiso TT. Working together with the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development, which has the legal mandate to assist commissions of inquiry in setting up, we have taken delivery of most of the necessary physical and ICT infrastructure. The Commission's hearings will take place here in the main auditorium of the Bridget Mabandla Justice College in Central Pretoria. As you can see, if we look around, the auditorium has been repurposed specifically for the hearings, with the necessary alterations having been effected by the Department of Public Works and again facilitated by the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development. The Commission's offices are also located here at the Justice College, and whilst there is still some work continuing to ensure our offices are suitable, we have been assured that this should be completed in coming days, and it is pretty much ready. With regard to IT equipment and ICT infrastructure services that were awaited, the Commission has taken delivery of equipment configured with the necessary software, including data security software. Most of our staff have now been trained on the systems, and they have conducted tests to ensure that the hardware and software are fit for purpose, which indeed they are. The ICT systems which have been procured include a cybersecurity solution, a secure internet connection, and a live streaming service, as well as transcription and stenography services, amongst others. Whilst the delay in procuring these items was regrettable, we are now pleased to confirm that the necessary systems are up and running. In addition, we have onboarded a confidential reporting hotline for receiving reports from the public. The hotline consists of a number of platforms, including a telephone line where members of the public can confidentially talk to an operator and offer the Commission information related to the terms of reference. And that's very important. The Commission has terms of reference which, whilst they are quite wide, specifically relate to the allegations made by Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi. So the hotline's contact details are Madlanga Commission at behonest.co.za. I'll repeat that, Madlanga Commission at behonest.co.za. And the hotline's contact number is 0800 111 369. That's 0800 111 369. The Commission will issue a comprehensive statement to educate the public on how to use and access the other hotline platforms. At the same time as the required infrastructure was being procured and set up, preparations for the Commission's hearings have been advancing steadily. The Commission's evidence leaders and investigators have been in consultation with witnesses and following up on information within the Commission's terms of reference. As Justice Madlanga said at our first media briefing on the 28th of July, consultation with the first witness was, in his words, imminent. We can now confirm that the consultation to which the chairperson of the Commission, Justice Madlanga, referred was with Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi, whom the Commission intends to call as its first witness. The Commission has simultaneously been in consultation with a number of other witnesses whose details, based on security considerations, we are not at liberty to divulge. The preparations for calling a witness are intricate, and it's important for the public to understand. I am not going to elaborate on the details involved. Suffice to say that there is a lot of legal and investigative work which goes into such preparations. It's also important to clarify that this work was delayed by the procurement challenges which arose with regard to the ICT systems, and in particular, issues with data security, having regard to the nature of investigations which the Commission must conduct and the technical sophistication of the parties it must investigate. With the procurement, training and testing completed, the preparations are on track. Until we were sure that these systems were fully functional and that our electronic records could not be securely stored, we could not have proceeded responsibly with those preparations. The Commission is still in consultation with Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi. It has reserved him and plans to continue those consultations throughout this week, as well as the early part of next week, ahead of the first public hearing to be held next Wednesday, the 17th of September 2025. We are aware that the Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee would also want Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi to testify before it as soon as possible, and we are communicating with the Ad Hoc Committee to ensure that this happens cooperatively. We are acutely aware of the public's keen interest in the work of the Commission, which is essentially to investigate the very serious allegations made by Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi that the criminal justice system has been infiltrated by criminal syndicates and drug cartels, and that those are unduly influencing our country's law enforcement agencies. That is why we deemed it necessary to update the public on the work of the Commission, which has been continuing behind the scenes, as well as on the readiness to hold the Commission's first public hearings. That, members of the media, is our statement, and we are happy to take questions in batches of 3. We'll ask you to bear with us, as I may ask some of my colleagues to step up to deal with some of your questions. We are also conscious that there are members of the media online, and so my colleague Khomotso will read out those questions as they come in. All right, we'll take 3 hands. There's a lady there. 2, 3. Should we? Okay, we can hear you.
Okay. Good afternoon, Zoleka from Newsroom Africa. Mr. Michaels, the Commission of Inquiry was supposed to start with its first sitting on the 1st of this month. It will be proceeding on the 17th, which is 3 weeks later. I just wanted to know to what extent this delay will have an impact on the report that the Commission is expected to submit to the President. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Zoleka. Aaron?
Arlington Eyewitness News. Jeremy, just with regard to, and perhaps this is a question for the media media. Just with regard to the sensitivity around witnesses, consultations, and investigations, I know that the Commission was looking at witness protection and ensuring that security is beefed up around some of the witnesses, especially the witnesses that are likely to provide sensitive information to the Commission. What's the latest and the status on that? Can the Commission confirm that this has been done in terms of getting a service provider to have that protection done?
All right, thanks, Aaron.
This commission is part of a very important matter. As a commission, are you empowered to deal with classified information? That's my first question. The second one is with regards to recommendations, and a lot of commissions have taken place, and a lot of South Africans always complain about, the purpose of those particular commissions in terms of their findings. Are they binding? And the last one will be around the committee. In terms of how are you going to work with the committee? Are you guys communicating with them? Thank you so much.
All right, thanks. We'll take those 3, and I'm going to ask Advocate Chaskelson to join me so that we can just with ease deal with those questions. But Matthew, if you don't mind stepping forward, let me deal with the delay, Zoleka, your question related to the delay in the start of the hearings and what impact that will have on the report to the President. So, firstly, the President made it very clear in appointing the Commission and in terms of the terms of reference that the deadlines would be 3 months for an interim report and 6 months for the final report. Now, needless to say, there has been a delay, and that has practical implications. So, realistically, there will have to be some adjustment. That is a matter with which Justice Madlanga, the Minister of Justice, Mamoloko Kubai, and the President will engage on and take into account the delay and its impact. And they, I'm sure, will in due course pronounce in terms of whether there will be an adjustment. But having said that, I think it's very important to emphasize that we, the Commission, the legal, the investigative teams have been working pretty much around the clock within the constraints which we described by the delays in the procurement of safe and secure ICT infrastructure. So the work has been continuing as far as possible, and I'm sure that Advocate Chaskelson will be able to elaborate on that if need be. But yeah, I hope that answers your question, Zoleka. And then I think I'll hand the rest of them over to you, Matthew. Do you want to take the seat so that you have the microphones in front of you? Okay, all right.
I'm not going to address the question on witness protection because it's not an issue that I've been involved in, but another colleague will if needs be. The classified information issue, we are required to get classified information declassified. We don't have the power to declassify it ourselves. Thus far, we haven't had any difficulties from the relevant authorities in getting declassification of information, of classified information that we've wanted declassified and made available to us. If we do have difficulties in the future, we will take that up. We're appointed to advise the President. The President is the head of the executive. If we can't advise the President because we aren't given access to information that's necessary for the purpose, we will take it up with the President. The last question was, are our findings binding? And there the law is clear, our findings are not binding. All that we can do is make a recommendation to the President. Our recommendation doesn't bind the President, it doesn't bind the people in respect of whom we make those recommendations or make those findings. So essentially the function of this body is to conduct a public hearing for the purposes of making recommendations to the President. We can't make we don't make findings that are binding. The President, we hope, will act on recommendations that are made, but our recommendations are not binding on the President or indeed on anybody else.
All right, okay, thanks. Let me deal with the question of witness protection. Sorry about the musical chairs, but all these microphones are gathered at this one spot, so it makes no sense to move them around. On the question of witness protection, the terms of reference are quite unique in that it requires the Commission to provide witness protection. And so to that extent, we have taken lessons from the State Capture Commission of Inquiry, the Zondo Commission as it is commonly known. So we've taken those lessons, but given the unique nature of this commission, which has within its sights, within the terms of reference, some of the very state entities which are charged with responsibility for witness protection. So we are innovating, and we are not going to discuss those details in public precisely because it deals with witness protection, and their safety is sacrosanct. So unfortunately, we are not able to get into that detail, but we hope that that gives you, members of the media, and the public a sense of our approach to dealing with this very sensitive matter, security-related matter. All right, we'll take, I think we've covered all the questions. We'll take another 3 hands. It's 1, Pule, 2, the gentleman at the back, 3 online. Okay, let's take these 2 in the room, and then Homotso, you can read out to us the other questions.
All right, yes, thank you very much for this opportunity. Of course, something you said that you have good communication at our committee. What has been their response? Are they cooperating? Are they willing to allow you to have the first witness who they say is also crucial to their proceedings? Number 4, number 2. become sub judice, and be limited to its use in Parliament, the sub judice evidence. And
Sorry, can you just repeat that question? Just say it again.
evidence will be presented by a witness, especially that was expected to appear before the ad hoc committee, because it then becomes sub judice once they've appeared before the commission. That's number 2. And then number 3, will the commission be requesting the much spoken about 121 dockets in its original form?
All right. Thank you, Pule. That's 3 in 1. All right. I see 3 hands in the room, so we'll take these and then we'll come to the online.
And Tanta Sibuga from Hotline. Thank you, Jeremy. 2 questions on my end. Firstly, was the Commission's first witness, General Mkhwanazi, afforded the opportunity to review the terms of reference and propose questions prior to being called, or has he or any of the witnesses that the Commission plans to bring forward, have they raised any concerns about the scope or fairness of this inquiry? Secondly, on the relationship between the Commission and the key institutions, has the Commission formally communicated with the SAPS or any other state institutions about Mkhwanazi or others' testimony, especially concerning any possible internal reviews or disciplinary proceedings that may overlap as a result of these proceedings?
All right. That's also 3 in 1. You can go, the gentleman there.
Thank you. I'm Howard from the USA. This question of dockets, exactly what is it that the Commission needs the dockets for? And why specifically the 121 when there's many court cases elsewhere in the country? And my recollection is that the general allegations were not necessarily confined to Kwazulu Natal. So a question may arise to say, why are you keen on these 121 dockets? Why not the Central River one? Why not another one in Limpopo that remains unresolved?
All right. We will take those questions online shortly, but let's just deal with these. Again, Matthew will deal with some of them, but let me say firstly on the 121 dockets. I think it's very important for us to say firstly that the public anxiety around the issue of the 121 dockets, which resides with the Political Killings Task Team, and given that the Political Killings Task Team is specifically mentioned in the terms of reference, it is then understandable that there has been a lot of anxiety around this particular issue. Having said that, the investigative team and the evidence leaders have been in contact with the South African Police Service, and we are not going to get into the details of those discussions, except to say that there is, to answer your question, there was no need for us to have original copies of the dockets, but that also that the Commission and the team had taken the necessary steps to ensure the integrity of the information. So we're not going to get into detail on that matter. It is very much historical now, and then I will hand over to Advocate Chaskelson to deal with the rest of the 2 other questions.
So the first question that I have relates to the issue of sub judice, and the answer again there is clear. Nothing we do makes anything sub judice. So after General Mkhwanazi has testified in front of us and has testified publicly, Parliament is free to ask him whatever questions members of Parliament want to ask. And the same is true for any witness. The second question was the General given an opportunity to review the terms of reference before he consulted with us? In truth, I cannot answer that question. I don't know. That would really be an issue between the General and the President, because the terms of reference are set by the President, not by the Commission. What I can say is that the General has expressed no misgivings about any of the terms of reference in our consultations with him. Has the Commission communicated with SAPS in relation to parallel internal proceedings? Not to my knowledge, but thus far we haven't had any complaints or any suggestion that what is taking place in SAPS is interfering with our proceedings and our processes. If that arises in the future, we will take the necessary action. Have I covered everything else that was outstanding?
I think we have. All right. Okay. Just say it again.
Communications with South and our committee, their response.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Pule's question is whether the ad hoc committee has responded. Yes, we did say that we've been in communication with the ad hoc committee, and I think the ad hoc committee had also communicated publicly during its meeting on Friday to that effect. So obviously we can't speak on behalf of the ad hoc committee. Suffice to say that we have been in contact with them, and we certainly can't speak on their behalf. I just want to add to what Matthew was saying related to the SAPS, and I think we have made it quite clear that the Commission has no intention to impede the work of the SAPS. Certainly the public would expect that investigations that are currently underway would proceed, and that applies to the 121 dockets of the Political Killings Task Team 2. So I hope that we have clarified. We do not intend to meddle in the work of the SAPS, particularly with regard to ongoing investigations, but that matter of the 121 dockets was also addressed and resolved by the Minister of Police and the National Commissioner of SAPS. Okay, let's take the online questions, Homotso.
Okay, Jeremy, we have two questions from two media houses. The first question comes from News 24, it reads as follows. You may have mentioned that you are reluctant to name certain witnesses. Will they testify in public, and is the Commission confident that it will be able to protect them? Given that the Commission has a direct responsibility to protect both witnesses and potential witnesses. And then the last part of the question is that is Mkhwanazi receiving any form of witness protection?
Say that again.
Okay, the last part says, is Mkhwanazi receiving any form of witness protection?
All right.
Then the second one comes from Business Day, Senior C4. Witness protection. Has the Commission received any concerns from witnesses fearing for their lives? The second part says, if so, is the Commission confident in the witness protection system to be strong enough to protect those expected to give information against politicians and criminals? Thank you, that's all I have.
Peter, are you able to ready yourself for that last question, please? So, again, Matthew and I will juggle seats here, but I think firstly, General Mkhwanazi, on that question of whether he is receiving witness protection, he does have protection, and I'm just going to leave it there. And then Matthew, will you deal with the rest of the question on witness protection? Peter, you'd also like to come forward, please.
So I think Peter, as our lead investigator, will deal with the issue of witness protection generally. I can speak to the question about whether witnesses will testify in public or in camera. And there are two separate issues there. To the extent that it is possible to do so without compromising anybody's safety and without compromising the integrity of ongoing investigations into organized crime, we will try as far as possible to hold hearings in public. But there are definitely going to be topics which cannot be held in public for one of two obvious reasons. Either the testimony of either the witness, him or herself, is someone whose identity needs to be protected for their own safety or for the safety of ongoing investigations, or the testimony of a third party whose identity doesn't need to be investigated, for example, a prominent police officer. It doesn't need to be protected, for example, a prominent police officer. Their testimony might relate to ongoing investigations which need to be kept secret, or to the identity of undercover agents that needs to be kept secret. So in those circumstances, we will obviously have to have mechanisms for taking testimony in camera. And in our preparation, we are splitting our witness statements between those topics that can be covered in public and those topics that have to be dealt with in camera. Beyond that, I don't want to say anything else about what arrangements we make for our in-camera hearings. The whole point about in-camera hearings is that people should know as little about them as possible.
All right, then we're going to be able to swap seats then.
To the comprehensive response about the question on witness protection, Jeremy has just covered a critical element, which is an element of witness protection. That when we deem the witness's testimony to be of such a private and confidential nature, affecting state security and other implications, for example, affecting other witnesses, then that will be held in camera, and he's covered it quite adequately. So important to flag that that's one means of witness protection. The other means of witness protection that was mentioned earlier on today was the announcement of an anonymous and a confidential hotline reporting facility. So if a reporter or witness wishes to raise matters with the Commission, they can do so anonymously or confidentially. And you all appreciate then that if it's anonymous and confidential, that in its inherent nature, it will protect the witness. The next level of protection of the witness, is very important to note, is the physical protection of the witness should they appear before the Commission, and we have adequate security at premises to protect those witnesses. We didn't answer a question earlier on about whether we have a service provider to afford a more intimate level of protection, which we can't discuss, but we are in the process of finalizing the procurement of a particular service provider in that regard who is highly experienced in witness protection. We hope that that comprehensively covers the full gamut of witness protection issues. And I repeat, confidential and anonymous reporting. 2, when the matter requires in camera, we afford that to the witnesses on the discretion of the evidence leaders and within the remit of the law. 3, when physical protection, as is known in more popular terms, is required for the witness coming to the Commission, we are procuring a service provider. We are dealing with a highly qualified service provider, adequately qualified to protect witnesses. We hope that's a comprehensive answer.
I think you meant to say Matthew.
Sorry, there is a further point that I want to add in relation to IT, and it goes back to the issue of delays that was raised earlier. The single most significant obstacle that we faced and that has caused our delays is we needed IT systems that were sufficiently secure for us to be confident, bearing in mind who we're investigating, that they couldn't be hacked, and that the data relating to our investigations would be secure there. And it's that procurement process which has taken time because it has required very specific requirements from bidders, and it's required us to be satisfied that the bidders can deliver on the level of cybersecurity and data storage security that we required. And I am confident that our systems are not going to be hacked, but it has taken me quite a long time to reach the point where I'm confident. And when you think of delays, you do need to think of it in that context. We can't start investigating and exchanging data electronically until we have systems in place, or we couldn't until we had systems in place which would adequately protect the security of that data.
Thanks. Thank you, Matthew. All right. I think we have one last question online to Khomotso, and we hope to wrap in the next few minutes. Khomotso?
Okay. This one comes from Karen Mon, 24. It says, when you say that testimony will be held in camera, will there be any public record of that testimony? In the Zondo Commission, such witness evidence was had, but their identity was concealed. You say that in camera evidence that Madlanga inquiry will be held completely in secret. If so, what are the implications of this for the transparency of this inquiry? And the last question is from Arthur Hatchett in Cape Town. Does the Commission believe that it will request the extension of the work? Maybe it won't conclude its work within 6 months.
Sorry, the last one again from Arthur in Cape Town.
Okay, it reads as follows. Does the Commission believe that it will request the extension for its work? Maybe it won't conclude its work within 6 months. Okay.
All right. Again, I will deal with the last question first and then hand over to Advocate Chaskelson. So as we have said, on the issue of timelines and potentially requesting an extension, we have lost some time due to the delays which are well known. And Justice Madlanga, together with the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development and the President, will consider the delay and make adjustments if that is necessary. But I think we have also said previously that given the wide scope of the terms of reference, the timelines were already quite tight. Having said that, we understand the urgency. The President has made it very clear that he expects a report within an interim report within 3 months and a final report within 6 months. So the realities of the delay will then have to be factored into that urgency and a decision taken, which I'm sure if that request is considered, that will be communicated in due course. Okay, Matthew?
So in relation to the question C about transparency and in-camera hearings, I think at the outset it's very important to emphasize that this commission is unprecedented in terms of what it has to investigate. What it has to investigate is allegations that organized criminal syndicates have infiltrated the SAPS and other organs of state involved in policing and public safety. So that's what we're investigating, and some of the evidence we gather will include evidence from undercover agents who have been placed in criminal syndicates by the SAPS and who the SAPS use in their attempts to break these criminal syndicates. Now, if the identity of those people is disclosed, there is a very real risk that they will be killed. So, while we are committed to transparency, we have to prioritize the protection of human life at all costs. And we will consider each case on its own individual merits. But I can certainly see that there will be some evidence that we have to take that will be taken in camera and that may well not be made available in any form publicly. Because unless we can make evidence available in a form that's not going to put human life at risk, we can't do that. So this is not an analogous situation to that faced by the Zondo Commission when it investigated the intelligence services and where there was classified information that it had to look at, but classified information that related to the operations of the intelligence services as opposed to individual undercover agents who were placed inside syndicates that were known to kill people. In the Zondo Commission, it was possible to find a balance that allowed as much of that information to be disclosed, even if witnesses' identities weren't disclosed. We sit in a much more extreme situation, and our first commitment must always be to the protection of human life. So it is possible that we will put some evidence before the Commission which will not be released to the public in any form.
Thank you, Advocate Chaskelson, for that comprehensive reply. All right, there's one very last question. Zoleka.
Dr. Again, Zoleka Kodashi from Newsroom Africa. I just want to know, there are 8 entities that are listed in terms of reference by the President. It's SATS, as well as the judiciary, including the magistracy. I want to know, will there be any prioritization of these entities named in the terms of reference?
Did you get that question? Okay, all right.
As presently advised, we're not prioritizing one institution over another. We are looking at infiltration by syndicates, and if a particular syndicate has infiltrated 3 different institutions of the state, we will draw that evidence out in a manner that shows the operation of the syndicate rather than focuses on the particular organ of state that has been infiltrated. That's our current modus operandi. I can't speak for how it may or may not change in the future.
Okay, all right. Okay, members of the media, members of the public, thank you very much. This brings to a conclusion our second media briefing. And I think it's just very important for us to emphasize that the Judicial Commission of Inquiry into effectively the criminal justice system is unprecedented. There are learnings from what has happened before, but we are also breaking new ground. And so we thank you for your patience, your attention, and we look forward to seeing you at the first public hearing next Wednesday, 17 September. Thank you very much.